Hey everybody, what is going on? Welcome to the show. This is the Otherppl podcast. I'm Brad Listi. I'm in Los Angeles. It's good to be with you. Appreciate you tuning in wherever you are. Hope you're doing okay. Happy holidays. It's Friday, so it's time for a brand new flashback episode where I dig into the Otherppl archives and share an outtake from the past. Don't forget to subscribe to this show wherever you listen. You can also subscribe on YouTube. Follow the program on social media, TikTok, Instagram, Twitter, and Blue Sky. So today I'm going to be sharing an outtake from episode 400, my conversation with author Alexander Chee. It first aired on February 16th, 2016. Alexander Chee is the author of the novels The Queen of the Night and Edinburgh, as well as the essay collection How to Write an Autobiographical Novel. He is an associate professor of English and creative writing at Dartmouth College. He is a contributing editor at the New Republic, an editor-at-large at the Virginia Quarterly Review, and a critic-at-large for the Los Angeles Times. An outtake from episode 400, my conversation with Alexander Chee, is coming up in just a couple of minutes. So a quick reminder before we begin about my newsletter. I do a weekly email newsletter. If you want to subscribe, you can do that over at bradlisti.substack.com. The newsletter lives over at Substack online, and it will be delivered to your inbox once a week, free of charge. Just subscribe over at Substack. The newsletter is simple. I let you know about the latest episodes of this show on a weekly basis, and I also share a list of links to things that I've been reading and finding interesting. So if that sounds good to you, go over to bradlisti.substack.com and sign up. Likewise, if you are an Otherppl superfan, if you like this show, if you listen regularly, if you feel like you get something valuable from it, I hope you will consider joining the Otherppl Patreon community, help keep this show going into the future, get some Otherppl merchandise, get a book club subscription over at patreon.com/otherpplpod. All right, so today's flashback, an outtake from episode 400, my conversation with Alexander Chee. Once again, it first aired on February 16th, 2016. A reminder that the full episode is available in the feed. So if you like this flashback and you want to hear the full hour with Alex Chee, just go search for episode 400. It is there, waiting for you. Okay?
Yeah.
This is Alexander Chee.
No, I was working on two other books that I was sure were the next books.
Ah, okay.
And then I sent a piece of it off to this special issue of the Hartford Courant that was edited by a guy named Dave Daly, who's now at Salon.
Oh, right, yeah.
And, at the time he was an up-and-coming editor, and he was doing a fiction issue of the Hartford Courant, a supplement. And he said, do you have anything in a drawer? Like 1,500 words? And I thought about it, and I thought, I got stuff in drawers.
I've got so much stuff in drawers.
Yeah, so I went in and took a look, and I had this idea for the novel back in 1999, and then I put it aside in probably 2002, 2001. I was angry at it because I thought of it as a spoiler. I had Edinburgh, my first novel, on submission, and publishers were asking what the second novel would be, so I had supplied a 2-paragraph synopsis for something that I had been kind of thinking about whimsically, called The Queen of the Night. And that...
You had the title that early?
Oh, yeah. I had the title right away.
Okay.
And actually, I usually do. I don't know why. It's a strange thing. It's a focusing tool.
But I think that's, I mean, some writers get that. It starts with the title, or it starts with the character's name, or something, you know?
Yeah,
something to grab
like
onto.
That. And I often get a scene that's right near the end, but that is not the end. I can say that now, having finished 2 novels.
Is that good to get one that's near the end, but that's not the end? I guess it's better than having nothing.
I guess. I don't know if it's good or not. It's just kind of how my brain works. It's a sort of place that I shoot for, I guess, and then I know the rest.
Well, no, but I think it's like, I'm always amazed when I hear writers say that, you know, I just had a kernel, I had a character, I just started, like, you know, day by day making it up as I went along without having any concept of where the end was. That always amazes me, because I think you have to have at least some, like, loose idea of what the target is that you're headed towards, but not everybody needs that.
Correct. I think that is exactly, you know, but I think so much of being a writer is trying to figure out, you know, what kind of a writer are you? Like, what's your best time of day to work? Do you need to plan out in advance, or do you need to be spontaneous? Do you need coffee in the morning, or does coffee destroy you and turn you into an internet addict?
I don't know what you're talking about. What kind of writer are you?
I am, it's funny, if I can, I like to get up at 5 a.m.
Oh, wow.
And work. That's my favorite. It's sort of, it's almost like a sneak attack on the day or something. It's like some childish idea of escape.
It's kind of a holy time, if that's the right adjective. I mean, it's great, but like pre-dawn, that quiet.
Yeah, I think there's, you know, when I was a kid, I loved it when no one knew where I was. That was my favorite thing. And that was a terrifying time for my mom.
I was going to say, that's my favorite thing now. My children are terrified.
And I think that's kind of what it feels. It's that sort of that same feeling that I used to get as a kid. I have a little bit of that first zone of excitement, that feeling that everyone else is asleep and they're just not, they don't need anything from me, you know?
Yeah. So is that how most of this book was written?
A lot of it was written actually obsessionally. I think, you know, one of the things that I had to learn with writing this book was how to just work like a normal person. I kept wanting to be done before I was done. And so there's a line in a new essay that I have out now called How to Write an Autobiographical Novel. And the line is something like, the man who cried novel. It's sort of based on that time.
Yeah. Well, no, I totally get that. What is that? It's like this nervous energy, or this, I just want it out of me. I want it done. I want to hold it. I want it, you know what I'm saying? I want it externalized. And you can sort of feel yourself rushing. Is that what you were talking about?
Well, I think it's also partly that I just was, there was so much that I was doing. I think even now, I think I'm just beginning to be aware of just exactly what is in the book in a strange way. Like, which is to say, now that I'm seeing all people's reactions to it. And
tell me what my book's about.
Kind of. I mean, it's sort of it's a strange thing, you know, you're creating a country you'll never visit when you write a novel or when you write a book, because you'll never have the experience of it that other people will. And so it's once you're done with it, you don't even know how to think about what's in there, because you've known it so well in some ways. You've known it so well that you don't know it at all anymore, which sounds like that old cliche, but I think it's really true. And
you said earlier that you were angry at this book. And like, I
right.
don't know if
So the reason why is that all the publishers thought that The Queen of the Night was going to be so successful that I should write that first. And I suppose the novel's current success is their revenge on me. Because at the time I thought, how do you know this book is going to be any good? You don't know. I haven't written it. And I thought of it as a fool's game. I read something recently by this poor guy who, he just published his first novel. He's been writing for years, and he's had novels rejected for years. And and then he got leukemia. This was a piece on Salon, and he just had his first novel accepted for publication. It's coming out, but he almost died trying to do it, and that was what I did not want. I did not want to be that guy. So I fought really hard to try to publish the one that I had already written. And, I don't think that there were necessarily any mistakes in that.
So wait, you published Edinburgh.
Yeah.
And then you had a second book already written.
No, that's the whole point, really, was that this other book that they were so excited about was not written. I just had I had a 2-paragraph synopsis. I had maybe 15 pages, 30 pages of it. I don't even really remember. When I went for it in the drawer, there were only a few sections that I could have reasonably sent off to Dave Daly at the time, and the one that I sent is the section it's sort of near the end of the first quarter of the book, I'd say. It's the scene where she buries her mother and then leaves the farm after her family dies. So
okay, so you finally settle down. You finally come to terms at some point that this is the book you're going to sit down to write. And
well, so Dave published that, and when I sent it off to him, I remember I was suddenly so anxious that he like it. After all that resentment of it as an idea for so long, that kind of surprised me, and I thought, oh, you actually really care about this idea. I paid attention to that feeling. And then I sent it off to my agent. I hadn't sort of told her about this this little episode, and I knew that was a mistake, that I should alert her that I had done this. So she said, send it to me. So I sent it to her, and she called me up. She didn't even write back by email. She just called me up on the phone and said, talk to me about this. So
that's a good sign.
Yeah,
right?
It is, I suppose. I mean, it's you want to think that you're aloof to that kind of excitement and et cetera, but I think you're not. And she liked the other ideas, but this was the one that, and she has stayed. That excitement has stayed for all the years. She's been.
And who's your agent?
Jinnah.
Okay.
At Wiley, she doesn't really like having an internet presence, so I won't say too much more about it.
Right. People don't start emailing her out of the blue.
And also don't email me asking to get introduced.
So a 15-year span of time with a couple years off in between, getting up at 5 a.m. Most of the time.
Well,
did you ever have periods where you were ready to scrap it, or you thought this?
Oh, sure, yeah. Many. I mean, I think I was often prepared to throw the whole thing away, and in fact, I kept throwing it away during the first years of writing it. But throwing it away in the sense that I would. So I wrote 90 pages, and then I thought, that's not really it. And then I wrote another 90 pages, and again thought, this is wrong. And then I wrote 75 pages, and then I looked, and I was keeping this file that I called the chop bag, where things that I had chopped out of the manuscript I would put in this file.
Yeah.
And so the section that I thought of as the novel, that file was 75 pages, and the chop bag was 335 pages.
I thought you were going to say 6,400.
But I was like, oh, so you have a whole novel in there that you've kind of thrown away. So I pulled it out and began looking at it, and then I realized that there was some weird way in which I had needed to write each of these different sections as if the others didn't exist. It was very strange. But I understood that the idea was across those identities, as it were.
It's writing it makes me think of writing a novel. How often is it ever a clean process? Someone sits down, starts writing the beginning, finishes at the end. It's I hear this over and over again. People amassing these huge files, thinking it's nothing, trashing it, picking it back up, breaking it apart, reassembling it, starting over from scratch. You know what I'm saying? That's the way that it goes. That's the work.
That's how it works. I mean, I think there's something... Edinburgh was a little bit the same in the sense that what happened with Edinburgh, my first novel, was that I was leaving Iowa after graduating, and I found all these different fragments, and I thought, I had just a little prickle at the back of my head where I was like, there's some sort of weird thread that connects them. So I jokingly put them all in a binder, and I said, when we get to New York, tell me what you are. And then when I opened it up in New York, after unpacking my stuff, I could see the connection in between all of those pieces. And I guess there was some way that fragmentation also worked with this, just in a different sort of process.
Well, yeah, you talk about having to be patient. You talk about being anxious to have a book done, getting frustrated with a book, all these different things. Sometimes time is just a super key ingredient. You have to be willing to sit through all that time and to let whatever is happening narratively in the book get worked on by your subconscious. Like, it's sort of mysterious, but like one day you can be looking at those pages, have no idea what the thread is, and then you move to New York, you open it up after some time away, and suddenly it's all there. Like, what is that?
I'm remembering something I used to say in like 2008. I'd say sometimes it's a ballet, sometimes it's a clog dance. Like you open and you're like, oh my God, it's beautiful. And then you open it again and you're like, what the
I misspelled I misspelled my own name. Like what?
It's part of it is, nothing against cloggers, by the way.
They're comfortable shoes. Right, utilitarian.
I guess so patience is part of it. I wasn't always getting up at 5 a.m. Sometimes I was staying up really late. And sometimes it was, I needed to regularize my process, I guess is what I'm trying to say. And that eventually did happen. And now I'm more aware of how that works for me, So, the new novel I'm working on, I went back to notebooks and just the commitment to write for an hour and a half to 2 hours each day, no matter what, but to just always pick the same time, write by hand, write in pen, and then when the time was up to stop, and then go and do the other things. Because I have a lot of projects that I'm also doing in addition to writing, like most Americans. It's about multiple revenue streams, as they call it, which i.e. all of my gigs. And so I can't until I sell a new book, I can't just, work on it all day and night like I did for a while, because I think there was a lot of guilt that I felt once I was late. I just felt constantly guilty about being late.
How late were you?
The original. Sorry, the original contract said that the manuscript was due 2006.
So what? 8 years? 10 years? Just a
no
decade.
Biggie.
What's a decade in the grand scheme of things?
So,
but I'll say this, and you can agree or disagree. I think you'll probably agree. It's better to get it right, or to do the very best you can possibly do, than to rush something out into the world to meet some arbitrary deadline. Right?
I think that's true. I think, I say this to my students a lot. The only thing that protects you is that you did your best and that you did it the way that you wanted to. Because if you don't and you fail, then it's like 2 times the failure.
Right.
But if you at least did it the way you wanted it to, or the way that you felt was that honoring that initial spirit or what have you, then if it fails, at least you can own that failure, and you're like, okay, I screwed up.
And you did every draft.
Yeah.
You every sentence you worked, every word you looked at. You didn't skip any steps, because I think if you have to look back on a book and feel like you rushed it, or that you didn't do your due diligence, that's maybe more painful than even the book, not finding as many readers as you wished it would, or not getting the review coverage or whatever. It's like that feeling, I think, is worse to have.
Yeah.
Because it's on you. But
it really is, yeah.
But you didn't have that. You spent the time. You got the book done. Are you? I mean, I'm assuming you're satisfied with what's out there now.
Yes, I found a few things that I'm going to fix, but they're very tiny, just like tiny things.
Well, and with a historical fiction, I would imagine that little tiny details are more likely to need fixing because there's so much research involved. There's deep period detail that you have to get right. It seems like there's more opportunity for those kinds of mistakes to crop up.
Well, sure. I think I should say, because of the stakes, I did have the manuscript vetted by 2 opera singers and 2 historians who specialize in the period, so that I could remove as many of the anachronisms and mistakes as possible.
Smart.
And
are these people that you knew, or are these people you had to go find? Do you just have like 2 opera singers and 2 historians of the period in your arsenal of friends?
I guess you could say I cultivated them.
Okay. All right, folks, there we have it. That was today's flashback, an outtake from episode 400, my conversation with Alexander Chee. It first aired on February 16th, 2016. A reminder that the full episode 400, is available in full in the feed. So if you want to hear my conversation with Alexander Chee unabridged, go search for it by name wherever you get your podcasts. It is there, waiting for you. You can find Alex Chee on the internet at alexanderchee.net. You can follow him on social media, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. I think he even has a Tumblr and a Pinterest. He's got all sorts of stuff going on. Don't forget to subscribe to the Otherppl Show wherever you listen to podcasts. You can also subscribe on YouTube. Follow the program on social media, TikTok, Instagram, Twitter, and Blue Sky. You can subscribe to my weekly email newsletter over at bradlisti.substack.com. And if you want to, you can join the Otherppl Patreon community, help keep this show going into the future over at patreon.com/otherpplpod. If you have a moment and you want to help me out a little bit, please give this show a rating wherever you listen. So Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Overcast, wherever you listen, give the show a rating and write a little review if that's an option. It helps people find the show, helps it in the rankings, the whole thing. So rate and review, pretty please. If you want to get an Otherppl t-shirt or a sweatshirt, you can do that at otherppl.com. Last but not least, a quick plug for my latest book. It is a novel called Be Brief and Tell Them Everything, available now in trade paperback, ebook, and audiobook editions. I narrate the audiobook. It makes a great stocking stuffer. It's called Be Brief and Tell Them Everything. All right, so we're almost done with 2023. Can you believe it? Coming up on Sunday and over the course of next week, I believe what I'm going to be doing is a wrap-up of this year, a kind of best of 2023. I'm not entirely certain what it's going to look like, but I think that's what's going to happen. So, stay tuned.